Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Mobile sports betting is officially legal in the state of New York. And now, online sports betting apps are looking to expand into the southern tier. Big Fox's Matt Kleindens joins us from Corning with the potential impact that sports gambling can have on the region.
Good evening, Ann. Sports betting is becoming more and more popular across the U.S. and in the southern tier. With the NFL playoffs continuing this weekend, residents will be able to place their bets on their phones.
People now have other ways to do some sports wagering.
The FanDuel Sportsbook is a popular spot for visitors of Tioga Downs. And now that mobile betting is officially legal, more residents are beginning to look into sportsbooks.
So we've got a lot of people that are new to it and are just trying to explore and say, hey, how do I place a bet on this or that?
Jim Weed of Tioga Downs says mobile sports betting is becoming more and more popular across the country. He says New York's mobile expansion has attracted many new faces to Tioga Downs.
It's amazing to me that once the online came on board, how many new people we've seen come in here because, it's piqued their interest. So now they're saying, okay, well, I'd like to look into this, but they don't know how to do it. So therefore they come on property so they can learn how to do it.
Weed is hopeful that sports betting will be able to bring more money into the southern tier.
When you look at other neighboring states that have been involved with the online wagering for years now, they see huge results.
With the Super Bowl approaching and the push towards March Madness beginning, Weed says mobile betting will give New Yorkers more options for sports gambling.
Now it's just a matter of, hey, how do you want to do that with your whatever sports that you like?
Matt Kleindens, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
Corning police are looking for a suspect accused of carjacking along Baker Street earlier this week. According to police, a man was unloading items from his 2021 Hyundai Elantra when the suspect hopped in the front seat. The owner jumped in the passenger seat and tried to stop the carjacking as the suspect began driving, causing the owner to be dragged down the road. The owner suffered minor injuries as a result. Anyone who sees the stolen Hyundai Elantra is asked to call Corning Police. A New York City police officer has died after a days-long struggle after being shot in Harlem Friday night. The NYPD police commissioner announced the death of Officer Wilbert Mora Tuesday. He was 27 years old. He was taken off life support Monday. His fellow officer, Jason Mivera, was also killed after both officers responded to a domestic disturbance call. The accused gunman, LaShawn McNeil, was shot and killed by a third officer. The Interstate Task Force on Illegal Guns holding its first meeting today. New York Governor Kathy Hochul first announced plans to create the task force during her 2022 State of the State address. The task force consists of law enforcement officials from 9 northeastern states working together to stop the flow of illegal guns in hopes of curbing gun violence.
Gun violence is a national crisis. 90 of the top 100 cities in America are seeing an escalation in gun violence cases. And we have to make sure that we're working together. And this is not a New York phenomenon. This is a national phenomenon. And we now have to pull together all the tools in a concerted way, not just deploying what we have available to us here in the state of New York, which is exceptional, but also saying, where are these guns coming from?
New York City Mayor Eric Adams also unveiled his plan to crack down on gun violence in the city. The plan includes bringing back the controversial plainclothes anti-crime unit and increasing police patrols. The mayor also wants better technology for police officers and expanded programs for youth mentoring. Tioga Sheriff's deputies have arrested a man for alleged acts of animal cruelty. On Sunday, the sheriff's office found a basket full of guinea pigs along the banks of the Susquehanna in Owego. The guinea pigs were rescued before they were harmed by the cold weather. Deputies arrested 33-year-old Dale Fay and charged him with abandonment of animals. Free N95 masks begin rolling out across the country. This comes as the Omicron variant continues to drive a surge of new cases. Jonathan Seri has more from Atlanta.
The Omicron variant accounted for nearly every new COVID case in the U.S. over the last week. The American Academy of Pediatrics reports for the first time infections among children topped 1 million during that period. Medical experts say the number of infections continues to rise, in part because children remain the least vaccinated of any age group.
The vaccines is our way out.
Despite a high number of Omicron cases, new CDC research finds the variant causes less severe illness in hospitalized patients than previous strains. The agency says people hospitalized with Omicron had shorter stays and less frequent admission to intensive care. Public health officials say the reduced severity is partly the result of vaccinations, boosters, and previous infection.
The vulnerability is most pronounced in those over 65. If you've gotten boosted, particularly recently, you're about 70% protected versus 0 to 20% against just getting infection as a 2-dose series person.
Meanwhile, the federal government has begun its distribution of 400 million free N95 masks. The higher quality face coverings are now arriving at pharmacies and grocery stores across the country. But there's some confusion over who's responsible for distribution.
I'm already working 4 people's jobs for one person. And now I'm supposed to hand out all these free masks. I feel like I should just put a box outside and say, have at it.
Federal officials say those who pick up the masks will be limited to 3 per person. In Atlanta, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
President Biden says the U.S. is prepared to impose personal sanctions against President Vladimir Putin if Russia invades Ukraine. As Russia gathers troops on Ukraine's border, representatives from several European countries are set to meet in Paris today in an effort to quell the conflict. Madeline Rivera has the latest on the developments from Washington.
A senior Russian government representative arrives in Paris for high-stakes talks with advisors from Ukraine, Germany, and France. They're pushing for a diplomatic breakthrough to deter Russia from invading Ukraine, even as the Kremlin steps up military drills in the region. President Biden warning of severe consequences, including potential personal sanctions against Russian President Vladimir Putin if he invades.
This would be the largest, if he were to move in with all those forces, it would be the largest invasion since World War II. It would change the world.
The president suggests some of the 8,500 troops on heightened alert may soon move to Eastern Europe to support NATO allies, though he insists no forces will be moving into Ukraine. Meanwhile, shipments of U.S. weapons continue to arrive in Kiev, the latest military aid landing Tuesday.
This is a different ballgame today. The world is fired up about this.
A Fox News poll shows 62% of voters are concerned about escalating tensions with Russia. Russia denies planning an attack, but is warning of retaliatory measures if the U.S. and its allies reject its security demands and continue their, quote, aggressive policies.
We won't allow our proposals to be drowned in endless discussions.
Russia's foreign minister says he and other officials will advise Putin on next steps after receiving responses from the U.S. on those demands. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
Still ahead tonight, one phone call can go a long way in the pandemic. It's something the Department of Veterans Affairs has found.
A lot of times I'm hearing that it goes up to at least an hour or longer. We have about 750 volunteers around the country, but they've been matched with over 1,500 veterans.
How one VA program is connecting volunteers with socially isolated veterans for phone calls, and how you can help.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Your Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Mattar. A bitterly cold day today. Temperatures a lot colder than they were yesterday. 10 degrees colder in Elmira this afternoon, 6 in Corning, about 8 in Watkins Glen, and around 12 degrees colder in Mansfield tonight. It is going to be plunging down to below zero in many locations under a mostly clear sky. So it's going to be a very cold start to the day tomorrow. But during the day, it is going to be about 10 degrees warmer than it was this afternoon. However, don't get used to it. We have another storm system coming in, bringing snow chances for your Friday, and that Arctic air will be back at least for the beginning of the weekend. High pressure builds in tomorrow, ensuring that we are going to be dry, and I think we will see some sunshine, but snow will develop in the Great Lakes region and head to the east. And as it does so, we are going to increase our rain, or I should say our snow chances Thursday night into early Friday. So if you are planning to take a walk outside tomorrow, it is going to be pretty cold in the morning, 10 degrees at 9 o'clock. We managed to get up to around 22 degrees at noon. I think we do warm up into the upper 20s in the afternoon before dropping back down to around 25, and those clouds will start to thicken up in the evening hours. A cold front sweeps through our area. Snow chances late Thursday into early Friday, and then cold air from the Arctic starts to sweep in, and so it's going to result in temperatures that will be diving southward on Saturday. So let's take a look at our future radar, where we're finding quiet weather on Thursday, compliments of high pressure that will be in control of our weather throughout the day, but clouds increase. Notice the snow starts to show up a little bit to our west, and so around 6 o'clock that snow will move into some of our hometowns. A little bit more snow as we head into the overnight, but it looks like by 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday, most of this will be moving on, and we are expecting a little bit clearer conditions on Friday, which of course means that those temperatures will be plunging down. 0 degrees for our overnight low in Bath tonight, 9 degrees below zero in Elmira, highs in the mid to upper 20s. And so it is going to be a little bit better than today, but it's definitely going to be cold with temperature readings below freezing, and it looks like we'll stay that way, unfortunately, through about Sunday, and then a big warm up next week. So again, Arctic air arrives after this cold front moves through, and so single digit overnight lows, 13 degrees are high on Saturday, and it is going to be windy, and so those temperatures will feel about 10 to 15 degrees colder than that, but then a big warm up for next week. In fact, I think we'll be above normal on Tuesday and Wednesday. Unfortunately, though, we do have the possibility of precipitation.
One phone call can go a long way in the pandemic. It's something the Department of Veterans Affairs has found as it's created the Compassionate Contact Corps program, matching volunteers and veterans. We have a look at how it works and how to get involved. Here's Ashley Dvorkin.
Compassionate Contact Corps launched early in the pandemic to bring social interactions to isolated veterans.
We were concerned about the isolation right away. We realized that a lot of our veterans, a lot of people don't like to even admit that they are lonely. And so until they do that, it's kind of hard for us to help the way we want to. But we know that there's research that shows that chronic loneliness can be as bad for your health as smoking half a pack of cigarettes a day.
They match volunteers and veterans, training volunteers with a goal of weekly phone calls for at least 15 minutes.
A lot of times I'm hearing that it goes up to at least an hour or longer. We have about 750 volunteers around the country, but they've been matched with over 1,500 veterans.
How much have you heard in terms of how it's helped? What is the feedback that you've received?
This is why I love the program so much, because a lot of our veterans have reached out and said that it saved their lives, that this is the only time they really get any kind of social interaction. We did a survey last year, and 90% of the veterans said that it made them feel less lonely. And 70% said it made their overall well-being increase.
There's been great feedback from both sides of the call.
The volunteers seem to get as much out of it as the veterans themselves. And some of the veterans even say, you know, I'd like to become a volunteer and help other vets now.
And it's easy to get involved.
The veteran would reach out to their VA care team. And for volunteers, well, we're looking for people that are friendly, compassionate, and wouldn't mind hearing a war story or two. They can go directly to our website, volunteer.va.gov, or they can call their local VA.
Companies have a dangerously low supply of semiconductors. Retail returns to continue to climb, and the world's fastest growing brand. CJ Papa has more.
The chip shortage reaching new lows. The Commerce Department says several manufacturers claim they're down to less than 5 days of inventory. 3 years ago, companies typically had about 40 days of inventory. The agency now pushing Congress to approve the Innovation and Competition Act, which would spend $52 billion to boost domestic chip production. Retailers are expecting more than $761 billion in merchandise sold last year to be returned by consumers. That's nearly 17% of the total merchandise the customers purchased in 2021, up from 10.6% in 2020. Returns tend to be higher when people buy online, which has skyrocketed since the start of the pandemic. Mattel has won the rights to sell toys of popular Disney film characters, including its Princess line, the toy maker wrestling back the rights from rival Hasbro. Since then, Mattel has hired a new CEO and revived key brands like Barbie. And TikTok is named the world's fastest growing brand with 215% growth. The video sharing app's brand value has increased from $18.7 billion last year to $59 billion this year. TikTok claims the 18th spot among the world's top 500 most valuable brands and is the highest newcomer to the Brand Finance Global 500 ranking this year.
Yes, there is such a thing as too much meat. A Chicago meat packer is sitting on tens of thousands of dollars worth of top-shelf product after the Omicron variant took a big bite out of restaurant business during the holidays. Here's Dane Placco.
So this is our dry age room, so everything we do in here, we're going to age out for customers.
Since 1956, the Northwest Meat Company in Fulton Market has been supplying some of the choicest cuts of meat to Chicago's top steakhouses and restaurants.
Bone and fillets, those are for your high-end steakhouse. Right?
But third-generation owner Andra Neva is now dealing with a carnivore crisis. The meat's piling up with nowhere to go.
I'll never forget it, December 15th, that's when it changed. We were doing well. Omicron crashed the party.
Neva had already ordered and received hundreds of pounds of top-quality meat for holiday parties and special year-end dinners, much of which is still sitting here in cold storage.
There you're looking at prime tenderloins, prime New York strip.
A total of $30,000 in unused premium meat, purchased in October and paid for in November.
I bought it specifically to make sure that the demand was there, my customers wouldn't be shorted, but now I'm basically sitting on dead money.
It was particularly frustrating, yes.
Michelle Derpetti is a managing partner of the legendary Gene and Giorgetti Steakhouse, which buys its meat from Northwest. She says Omicron destroyed their holiday party business, with cancellations on some nights approaching 40%.
People were calling saying, I can't make my party, my aunt, is positive, or I'm positive myself. And so a lot of reschedules and cancellations, which dropped the overall numbers, impacting sales and then impacting suppliers.
For now, it's a matter of keeping the meat fresh for the next big holiday.
And I'm hoping that Valentine's Day comes, we have some nice demand.
And some food for thought to chew on.
There's nothing you can do about it. I tell people all the time, Northwest Meat Company didn't cause the pandemic, so we're just along for the ride.
Regulators continue to examine a Tesla passenger entertainment system that could be related to crashes. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration wants more records from Tesla on its passenger play system to determine if the front seat system intended for passengers is factoring into some driver-distracted crashes. The agency wants crash reports and risk assessment studies from the car maker. Tesla recalled 580,000 vehicles that have the system in December and updated software to disable play while vehicles are in motion. It's no secret that artificial snow machines and ski slopes go hand in hand, but rising global temperatures are making it harder for natural snowfall to thrive and pushing artificial snow to its limit, leaving ski resorts across the country with an uncertain future. Here's Marianne Rafferty.
Since its invention in the 1950s, artificial snowmaking technology has helped ski resorts create enough powder to coat their slopes. But climate change is making more resorts heavily dependent on fake snow, especially across western states reliant on winter sport tourism like skiing and snowboarding.
Aspen has lost a month of winter since 1980 and warmed about 3 degrees Fahrenheit. Snowmaking is going to increase because it's the only way to survive.
The amount of snow across the West has decreased by about 20% in the last century. And while almost 90% of alpine ski resorts in the states have snowmaking capabilities, experts say they may not be enough, with some predicting the ski industry may collapse by 2050 if climate change continues causing temperatures to soar.
And so we rely on snowmaking in that early part of November, just to kind of get things open, get a solid base, get people out and excited, and then kind of bridge our way into the natural snowfall.
In the meantime, resort workers are trying to improve snowmakers to be more environmentally friendly.
They're a lot more efficient with energy, they're a lot more efficient with the water, and we can get a little bit more aggressive with our run windows because the guns will turn themselves off when it gets too warm and we start to make rain.
And while energy-efficient snowmakers are a plus, climate activists say reducing global carbon emissions and fossil fuel usage is the key to preserving some of our favorite winter activities.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. A grandmother stepped into action to help capture a suspected scammer, and it was all caught on camera. 73-year-old Long Island resident Jean Ebert says she received multiple phone calls from a man who claimed to be her grandson and had been arrested for a DUI. Ebert says a second man called claiming to be a lawyer representing her grandson and needed $8,000 for bail. Ebert immediately knew it was a scam because she doesn't have a grandson who's old enough to drive. She eventually played along with the scammer's demands and told the suspect to come to her home and pick up the money. But before he showed up, Ebert called 911, and police were waiting for him when he arrived. Way to go, Grandma. From our whole team, thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great night.